This video is on how to field strip and clean the Colt M45A1. This video is for total beginners, as if you've never cleaned a 1911 before. So if you already own and operate a 1911, this video is definitely not for you. Having said that, I know some experienced 1911 owners are going to watch this video anyway and probably critique it instead of just making their own video. I say that because I know everyone has their own way of doing things, especially when it comes to the 1911, so today for training purposes, we're going to do it per the Colt owner's manual. It's going to be step by step, simple and easy to follow, but if I go too fast, feel free to pause it and rewind it, and if I go too slow, feel free to fast forward. And this is not going to be a complete disassembly video, we're just doing a basic field strip and clean. Before you get started, you'll need a few things, and I'll put links to everything below. CLP, today I'm using Lucas brand. I've tried several brands in the past and they all work, but lately this has been my favorite. I pour the CLP into this needle applicator bottle just because it's easier to use that way. The nozzle on the Lucas bottle is kind of wide, so it's hard to get precise with the application. Next, you'll need a bronze or nylon bore brush. Make sure it's 45 caliber. This little pick device here is called a jag. You can use either bronze or plastic like this one. Same thing as the brush, it needs to be 45 caliber. If you don't have a jag, you can also use the patch holder, but I do get better results with a jag. You'll need a cleaning rod with a handle that allows the rod to spin freely as you push it through the bore. I never use this, but this is a barrel bushing wrench. If you have problems with finger dexterity or finger strength, you may need this to take the bushing off. Cotton swabs, I usually use a type that has an angled tip that's specific to getting inside hard to reach spaces inside the 1911 like the rail channels and such, but I'm out of those, so today I'm using traditional Q-tip cotton swabs. Nylon cleaning brush. If you don't have a brush specific to this type of cleaning, then a normal toothbrush will do. I just like using this one because it has a smaller end to fit in the hard to reach spaces. Cleaning patches. If you don't have cleaning patches, you can cut up an old t-shirt. And a bore snake. The Colt owner's manual actually doesn't mention anything about a bore snake. It's just a little extra step that I take to be thorough. You should start out with an empty weapon, but of course I'm going to double check before I get started. To do that, press the magazine release button right here behind the trigger guard. Drop the magazine. Press down on the slide lock safety. Pull the slide all the way back. And to keep the slide in the rearmost position, you'll have to press the slide stop lever upward until it gets into the slide stop notch. And here's what the slide stop looks like when it's inside the slide stop notch. Okay, there's no magazine and no ammo in this 1911, but I'm still going to visually and physically inspect. I'm 100% clear, so I'm going to go ahead and release the slide stop and let the slide go home. Set the 1911 down with the muzzle pointed upward. Press down the recoil spring plug with your finger and turn the barrel bushing clockwise. Just be careful because this recoil spring plug is under spring tension. Take your time with this part. Go ahead and move the recoil spring plug out of the way. Pull the hammer back. This smaller cutout in the slide is your disassembly notch. The larger one on the left is your slide stop notch. Pull the slide back until the disassembly notch lines up with the end of the slide stop. It should look just like this when it's lined up. Turn it over on the right side, you'll see a button protruding from the frame. That's the other side of the slide stop. Press that on the right side and pull the slide stop out from the left. Now the slide will come right off. Pull the recoil spring assembly out. This particular model uses a dual recoil spring system, so just pull the guide rod out, then separate the two springs. Now turn the barrel bushing counterclockwise as far as it will go, then pull it out. Now push the barrel link down and pull the barrel out. This is as far as you need to break it down for a basic field strip. So you have the smaller recoil spring, the larger one, your barrel, the barrel bushing, the guide rod, the slide, the frame, and the magazine. Now that I'm field stripped, I'm going to start cleaning. I'm going to add CLP to my nylon brush. And I do use nylon because I would never want to use anything that would have even a chance of scratching this beautiful piece. Start cleaning all visible surfaces inside and out and pay particular attention to the rail channels. Here's the rail channels I mentioned. You want to get those really clean. What I'm doing right now with a nylon brush is just breaking up all the fouling and carbon and whatnot. Then I'm going to go through with a cotton swab. Now I'm just focusing more on the exterior of the frame. It gets especially dirty towards the muzzle end where the rail slots are, so I'm going to scrub that area really well. Also inside the trigger guard, the front strap, and the back strap, or you can also call it the mainspring housing, same area. Now don't be afraid to scrub the grips with COP, you're not going to leave it greasy. Now that goes for any part of this 1911 that you're actually going to grip onto. You're going to wipe all that off, it'll be totally dry. The rest of the exterior will have a light coat of COP on it. The best way to dry the COP off of these G10 grips is just wrap a microfiber rag around it and squeeze. Now the entire grip area is dry, I don't have to worry about anything slippery if I'm trying to grab onto this. Now that I've removed all the loose carbon and buildup with the nylon brush, I'm going to go through and fine detail with a Q-tip. Add CLP to a cotton swab, run it through the rail channels, you'll see that it comes out dirty. Just keep running clean cotton swabs through the rail channels until they start to come out clean. Okay, now that this frame is totally clean, I'm going to go through and add lubrication. I'm going to use the needle applicator to add CLP to the rails and anything that shows metal on metal wear. Now this part here is why I like the needle applicator bottle. It's very easy to get precise inside the rail channels and the small spots that are showing the metal on metal wear. If I were to use the Lucas bottle, that wide nozzle will just kind of spill it out into places that I don't really want it to go. But if the Lucas bottle is all you have, that's fine. Just add it to the Q-tip and just be cautious as to where you apply it. I use the needle applicator to apply the CLP where I want it. Then I use the cotton swab to spread it out evenly. So I'm using about what I would call a medium coat of lube on the high friction areas, and everywhere else I'm using a light coat. But I'm not doing anything that's going to cause CLP to start leaking everywhere. Alright, this looks good, so now I'm going to move on to the slide. Add CLP to nylon brush and start going through it. Scrub all surfaces inside and out. Give extra attention to the rail channels. Just like the rails on the slide, you want to keep these extra clean. I like to use the smaller end of the nylon brush to get into the smaller, hard to reach areas. You'll need to clean the breech face really well. This part gets really dirty, but be careful not to leak CLP down into that channel that the firing pin comes out of. You'll also want to make sure to clean behind the extractor. You'll probably want to use the smaller part of the nylon brush to get to it. Here's a close-up of the extractor here. Now I'm going to focus on the outer surfaces of the slide. I'm just breaking up all the carbon with the nylon brush, then I'll go through and fine detail with Q-tips and a clean rag. Now that I have all the carbon loosened up, I'm going to add CLP to a clean cotton swab and go through it once more. And just like you did with the rails on the frame, you're going to keep running cotton swabs through the rail channels on the slide until they start coming out clean. Now the slide is looking good, but I'm going to go through it with a clean cotton swab and finer detail just to make sure it looks as good as I can possibly get it. Now I've wiped off all the excess CLP, but I don't want to leave these rail channels bone dry. I'm going to use the needle applicator and apply CLP to these rail channels. Then I'm going to go through with a clean cotton swab and spread the CLP out evenly. And I'm going to leave a medium coat of lube on these rail channels, as well as anything that shows metal on metal wear. After I'm done with that, I'm just going to wipe it down with a microfiber rag and set it aside. Add CLP to your nylon brush and start on the guide rod. This part's very easy, just scrub it down, then wipe it off. By the way, this is a GI style guide rod. Some models have a full length guide rod. Start on the recoil springs, add CLP to your nylon brush and scrub them down. Clean in between the coils the best you can, then wipe it down. Add CLP to your brush and start cleaning the barrel bushing. Clean it inside and out. Now wipe it off with your microfiber rag. Now that it's totally clean, add a medium coat of CLP. Now I'm just spreading it out evenly with a Q-tip. Start on the slide stop, add CLP to your nylon brush, scrub it down, wipe it off, then leave a medium coat of lube on the part that goes inside the frame. That's going to help it go back in the frame easier when you reassemble. And here's where I'm going to add a couple of drops of CLP just so it reinserts easier. Now clean the recoil spring plug. Add CLP to it, clean it with a brush. And you can use the small part of the brush to clean the inside of the plug. Now I'm going to clean off the excess CLP with a clean cotton swab. Then wipe it down, and you're done with the recoil spring plug. Let's move on to the barrel. Attach your .45 caliber bronze bore brush to the cleaning rod and add CLP. Push the bore brush through from chamber end to muzzle end. And make sure you hold it by the handle. This allows the cleaning rod to spin freely throughout the rifling. If you were to push the cleaning rod through without using the handle, it wouldn't spin and it would scrape right over the rifling. It'd get the job done, but you wouldn't get a thorough clean. Now you can push the brush through and pull it right back in if you want to, but I'm not going to do it that way because it doesn't make any sense at all to push the dirt out, then pull it right back in. So what I do is I push the brush through chamber end to muzzle end, take off the brush, pull out the rod, put the brush back on the rod, and repeat the process. This is the way you would clean a high precision rifle, so why not clean your pistol the same way? It only takes a few extra seconds and it doesn't hurt anything. Now I'm going to add CLP to a clean patch and attach my jag to the cleaning rod. And make sure your jag is also .45 caliber. Use the jag to push the patch through from chamber end to muzzle end. And just keep pushing patches through until they start to come out clean. In this case, it took about 10 patches. That may sound like a lot, but it really depends on how clean you want to get it. Now that the bore is clean, I'm going to start on the exterior of this barrel. I'm going to add CLP to the nylon brush and scrub everything that I can see. Now I'm going to use my microfiber rag and wipe everything clean. Now I'm going to use a .45 caliber bore snake. Make sure it says 45 on the brass weight there. Drop the weighted end from chamber end to muzzle end, pull it through a few times, and you're good to go. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the Colt owner's manual doesn't mention anything about a bore snake. This is just an extra step that I take to be thorough. And you want it to be dry, but if you're just going to put this in storage, go ahead and leave a light coat of CLP inside the bore. Now that the barrel is totally clean, I'm going to add CLP to the exterior. I'm leaving a coat of CLP on the outside, but inside the bore it is actually dry because I do plan on using this at the range in the near future. Now I'm going to clean the magazine. I'm not going to do a complete disassembly on this magazine because it's just not necessary every time I use it. If I've dropped it in mud or sand or something like that, of course I would, but in this case I'm just going to give it a basic wipe down. If you do need to disassemble it, it's easy enough. I really don't think you need a video to show you how to do it. Just use a punch or a small screwdriver to press that little button that you can see in the middle of the base plate. The base plate slides off. The spring and follower will come out. Clean it off with CLP. Wipe it dry. You don't want to leave it wet. Reassemble the same way it came out and you'll be good. I'm going to add a few drops of CLP to the outside of the magazine, but I'm going to be very careful not to get anything inside it. I don't want anything inside the magazine that's going to attract dust and dirt later on. So I'm just going to rub the CLP on it, then I'm going to wipe it clean. I'm going to pay special attention to the top of the magazine where the follower is at, because that's the part that gets the most dirty. If you followed along the video step by step, everything's lubricated properly at this point and you're ready to reassemble. But just in case, I'll show you the lubrication points. Add a drop of CLP right here where the barrel locking lugs meet with the slide. Add a drop to the safety plunger, the rails, and anything else that shows evidence of metal on metal wear. You can add a drop to the barrel lugs, the barrel link, around the muzzle end of the barrel, and the barrel hood, which is basically the top of the chamber. On the frame, you can add a drop to the rails, or the hammer pivots, and anything else that shows metal on metal wear. Just remember to spread the CLP out evenly with a clean cotton swab. Time to reassemble. Put the barrel back into the slide. Reinstall the barrel bushing and turn it clockwise. Put the smaller recoil spring back into the larger one. Both ends of these springs look exactly the same, so if you're wondering which end goes on the guide rod, put the tighter side on the guide rod. And if you can't tell the difference, don't worry about it, it will still function. Now reinstall the recoil springs and guide rod, like so. And notice that the guide rod has a slot. It fits right on top of the barrel, just like that. But definitely not like this. That would be upside down. So I'm going to turn it back over, and this would be correct. Make sure that barrel link is facing downward. Line up the rails on the frame with the rail channels on the slide and pull it back. Now line up that square space on the frame with the disassembly notch on the slide. Now reinsert the slide stop. You're going to have to be careful. Take your time on this part. What you don't want to do is start from down here and try to push upward, because you'll create what's commonly known as an idiot scratch right about there. You don't want that. If you think that's going to happen somehow, you can put a piece of tape there or a credit card or just something to prevent yourself from scratching it, but you'll be fine as long as you go straight from the side, pushing it straight in from left to right. You just don't want to come downward going upward at an angle, because that's exactly how the scratch happens. And it should look just like that when you look on the right side. Now put the recoil spring plug back on the end of the recoil springs and turn the barrel bushing counterclockwise as you're holding down the recoil spring plug. And just be careful, because now that plug is under spring tension. And once you get that in, the barrel bushing and the plug should look flush just like that. Now I'm going to do a function check. I pull the trigger and the hammer's going to drop, but I don't release it. I work the slide, I release the trigger, I hear it reset, then I pull it again and the hammer drops. If it does, everything's good to go. But I also like to make sure the slide's going to lock back on an empty magazine. So I insert a magazine, pull the slide back, it should lock back. If it does, everything's good. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, it'd be great if you buy something from skullcrush.com.